back again for Week 6 coming up tonight. And we'll talk about Week 5 and everything that went on. Hi, everyone. T-Sibs, Matty Lucci with me today for the show. It's just the two of us. Everyone else has spousal and wedding spousal and I don't know. They're all a bunch of whip boys. So it's just me and Matty right now who are
They're being whipped out there.
Yeah,
the sandwich makers are just whipping them.
Yeah, I believe DeGraves has something to do with some sort of wedding type duties for someone else, and Six is on vacation. Advanced is still sick. One of these days he'll figure out what disease that is. And so,
do we really want to know what type of disease it is? I mean, it's kind of good that he's not here today.
It could be good for a pool. I mean, it could be a good guess as to
we
what
could start a pool on it. Yeah.
But yeah, plenty to talk about this week. Of course, we're more than halfway through the season now, with Week 5 being done. Week 6 is coming up next week, this week, and next Sunday, the start of Week 7, the Sunday of Week 7 at 5 p.m., which is next Sunday, is the trade deadline. So it looks like a bunch of teams are trying to, even now, make a lot more trades. We've seen a lot come through today. Quite a few for the last couple of days, but a lot of the action is picked up today in the trade market. Some that I saw and couple of sizable ones, or at least the one that I thought was really interesting, just happened about 15 minutes ago, was Cleveland trading Fizerk to Iowa for Crazy Man Gaming and Joey Nova. And Crazy Man actually had a good week. We'll talk a little bit about what happened with Iowa this week, and certainly a player who did well this past week. And maybe it's a situation of moving a player who's doing well right now and getting some value for him. Fizerk has been around for a while, solid player. I think we all know about him and know his availability. It's interesting that Joey had just gotten traded from Grand Rapids like 20 minutes before that. So it's one of those things, Matty, where all of a sudden you get moved around twice in a day, and you have to wonder what some of these guys are thinking. But instead of making three-way trades, we have some of these teams making multiple trades to get the same effect. I guess that's kind of what happened here with Joey. And you know what it feels like to get traded at least a couple of times in this season.
Oh yeah.
So.
I don't even have a suitcase anymore. I just bring a backpack with me because I'm like, you know what? There's no point to have a suitcase. I'm just gonna be moved around on the team mascot, but it seems like I'm going to be the league mascot number of times I'm getting traded. I just got traded again. Just found out right now. So
is that even official yet? Do we know if that's official yet or no?
I don't believe it's official at the moment. I did have messages on Discord. I don't know if it's on the website yet, but I did have a confirmation that my new GM would want me to play tonight. So we'll see what happens. It's like my Sunday is my hockey night, so I'm cool with it.
Yeah, and I'm going to play my first two for my new team, Texas, who traded for me at the end of the week, and it's interesting. I mean, obviously Toronto's a good team, and they are they're going to be in the playoff mix one way or another, and there are a lot of good guys on a team, but it's interesting to be able to move only because. For me, I do this for more of a social reason. Look, if I win, it's great, but I like doing it because it's just a fun time. Hang out with some guys and play hockey, and just a lot of fun bullshitting going on during practices, during games. So I got a chance to meet a bunch of other new guys. I'm all for it, and obviously I know a lot of these guys who are already in the league, who are on this team, and I know DeGraves. Obviously, I know him well. So it's kind of fun.
He had me for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
He got rid of me. I literally got a message, boom, and then not even 24 hours, I was gone. Now I'm back, possibly. It's not official yet, but
so you're one of those. Like. You're one of those guys who's been traded multiple times in one day. That's got to be weird. to say the least.
I'm not gonna lie. I was a little butthurt for like a half a second. I was like, but what the hell, like, you know? But you have to understand there's politics behind it, right? There's some things that I might not know that they were looking for or something, right?
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like things will happen in that sense, and you're just gonna have to adapt to that situation. Like you said, right? Going in another team just brings out having new people that you get to meet, new chemistry. You know, it's just more how I see it. It's more people that you get to meet online and different type of chemistry plays and stuff, such things like that. And it's an adaptive way. And the more you play with different players, the more you get to be an adaptive player, and that's important.
Right.
That's very important to have different skill set as a player.
Well, that's
But that's my 2 cents.
yeah. It's always interesting, and like I said, it also gives you a challenge. It's like look, you could play, and look, we know plenty of guys in this league who want to play with their buddies, who don't want to get into the ESHL and play with the big boys because they know they're going to get spanked. So they play league and they try and play with their buddies in league because let's be honest, it's an easier task to play in the AHL and play with your buddies and try and win than it is in a competitive league like ESHL. So that's what happens, right? So a lot of these guys want to make this like a club environment where that's what they want to do. And if it works out that way, great. But if you're demanding trades because you want to play with your friends, or you quit because you don't want to play for the team that doesn't have your friends on it, whatever the case may be, you're in the wrong league. You're doing the wrong thing.
It's not gonna happen.
Go pay
you
$10,
don't have that choice.
right? Go pay them $10 with a bunch of your friends, and go play in a pay league. This is not what this is about. This is all about being in a league where you're part of a team, and you do this because you're it's a challenge. It's a lot more of a challenge to play in a league like this than it is to play in a pay league, because again, you're playing with a bunch of guys. Some you may know, some you may not. You got to figure out chemistry, and you got to figure out how to learn to win together. And that's the challenge of it. And if you don't want to meet that challenge, then don't play in this league. Go play with your friends somewhere else in a club.
Yeah.
And
do drop-in.
Yeah, go do drop-ins. Or well, actually,
go do drop-in. Let the goalie quit after 3 or 4 goals in the first period and lose the game eventually because you're up by 5 or whatever the case, and you're winning 5-0 in the first, and then by the end of the game, EA is going to glitch it that they have no goalie, their defenseman quits, and you lose the game in a drop-in. Go do that.
Right. So yeah, I would say absolutely go find someplace else to play. This is a competitive league where you challenge yourself to play with a bunch of people that you may or may not know, and that's where you should leave it. And so don't be afraid of trades. I mean, it's all part of the experience, and I just think too often guys are crazed with wanting to get traded right away because they've gone to a team they don't like, or they want to quit. And we'll talk more about that topic a little bit later on as we get to the poll that I was promoting all this week about buying out bands, and the poll is closed now, and we'll talk to you about the results a little bit later on. But I tell you what, let's get right away to the nuts and bolts of what's gone on in Week 5, and take a look at the standings in the Eastern Atlantic right now. Hershey is on top, but barely, with 57 points, 2 over Springfield. Lehigh Valley there, 3 points back of Hershey in third place, and then Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Bridgeport fighting for the 4th spot. Hartford not too far back, only 6 points out of that 4th place. And then Charlotte, who have been playing better, but still still have a ways to go. They're 10 points back, but still plenty of time to make that up. And then Providence playing a little bit better this week, but still only 8 wins on the season, and they still struggle. For Hershey, this week, 7-2. They're in first place, as we mentioned. 2 overtime wins, a 5 OT win versus Laval this week, and Few Cam 3-0 this week, 5 goals, 3 assists, a +5. My name's Mino, also a 3-0 record with 5 points. Bottleman on the left side, also with a +5. And then on defense, Slow Mobius went 3-0 this week with 4 assists and a +4. And Dirty Bird, their goaltender, 4-1, 84.3 save percentage, 2.05 goals against, and a shutout. So Hershey, seemingly, even though they're making moves, have a lot of their cylinders going. And Maddie, I think we saw when you were in this division earlier this year, we saw that Hershey had some talent and were battling with everybody else right from the beginning, and they haven't pulled away yet. But I think some of that talent and some of those moves they made are actually shining through at this point.
And you can see it. I mean, that's why they're up there, right? That's why they're on top of the league right now. And like you said, Dirty is playing a dirty game. He's playing awesome, and he's holding up the team together, and that's very important. When your Kendi starts going that route, and he has a few wins under his belt, he gets that confidence, and he just goes for it. And that's what's important right now, is that they keep going that aspect. They keep running and gunning, and make it happen. And that's I'm not surprised they're still on top, and I'm not surprised the Thunderbirds are right under them, right? It is what it is in that sense, that they're going for it, they're gunning for it.
Thunderbirds,
I mean, they do have.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, okay. I'm back.
Try it. Right. The Thunderbirds, like you said, they're going at it too. They're close behind. This is definitely a division that can go up and down. I mean, Providence, unfortunately, it's pretty much they call it quits at this point. Now with that number of points, I don't think they can add it at all. But I mean, they can still restructure their team for next season. That's what they have to start looking at, or start building that chemistry in that sense, right?
Right. Springfield 6-3 this past week, an overtime win versus the Penguins, a 4-3 victory there, and then a double overtime win versus the Tigers as they beat them 2-1. And another OT win against Lehigh Valley, beating them 4-3. They have a +60 shot differential, the best of any team in Week 5. So
wow.
60 more shots, and by far and away the top team in that. Kornick on left wing, what else do you expect from him? Going 3-0, 8 goals, 3 assists, a +7 for Kornick, and certainly, as usual, one of the best forwards you're going to see in this game. And no different this year in the AHL. 72 on right defense. You know him as Corey. He also went 3-0, 9 assists, a +10 on the right D side. And so that also spells a big difference for Springfield this week. Red Raider, again, 2-2 this week, but 86.7 save percentage, 1.86 goals against, a shutout. He had 60 shots on net this week in those games. And Twigster went 4-0, 81.3 save percentage, 1.32 goal against, a shutout on his side. And he saw a lot less shots, but certainly was able to come through with a victory in all those games. So Springfield getting a lot of help from everywhere on the team, not only offensive help, but defense. And they seem like they have everything going for them right now. WBS Pens 4-2-3. They're in 4th place, so we'll talk about them first. Overtime losses to Lehigh Valley and the Thunderbirds. 2 overtime losses, a 2 overtime loss to the Marlies this week, and that was an interesting game and a tough one for both teams, but a well-played game if you get a chance to go back and watch that one. They beat the Tigers, Crunch, Providence, and Hartford this week. Mr. Tryhard on right wing, 6 goals, 7 assists, and a +6. Toffoli.
As a defenseman.
He's right wing, Mr. Tryhard.
He's right wing. Okay.
Yeah.
He's definitely trying hard.
Yeah. Toffoli on the left side, 2 goals, 6 assists, a +6. And Senators fan, a right D man, going 2-0-1, 3 assists and a +6 this week for the Pens, who continue to make more moves. And the Pens have played well, and I don't question their management at all. But it's when your team is playing well and you continue to make moves, I wonder how much that's going to mess with the chemistry.
It's going to be an established point that they're going to have build up. There's going to be practices involved for sure. When there's a lot of trades, it's new players coming in. It's going to take an adaptation moment for sure. It's rare that you're going to have a team that just click right away, right off the bat. A lot of people, we all wish that happens, but I believe that it's going to come with practice. But I'm sure they're going to get there.
The Lehigh Valley Phantoms went 4-4-1. They stayed in third place this week, but they're on a 4-game losing streak. They lost to tough teams, though, the Marlies, Americans, Thunderbirds, and the Tigers to close out the week. They have the most goals in their division after this week at 148. They're 12-4 and 2 in one-goal games, so at least when they have close games, they are winning most of them. John Kenny on left wing, 6 goals, 5 assists. Filthy Puck at center, 5 goals, 4 assists, a +5. And BD's Nuts at right wing, 2 goals, 5 assists, a +6. That line of John Kenny, Filthy, and BD's beat Laval and Hershey this week, lost in overtime to Springfield. So they had a pretty good week, and the Phantoms struggled, but that line at least got them a couple of victories this week and kept them in third place in that division. And again, as we continue to look at the standings, it is still pretty close for everybody, Matty. I don't count anyone out. And, we have a lot of teams in this division that have had good weeks and bad weeks, one right after the other. And I still think, even though there's starting to be a little bit of separation, that it's still up for grabs. And the 4 playoff spots for sure, nothing really locked in yet.
Nothing's locked in. Everybody can move around very quickly. I mean, a few games, especially if they're going to start having games in their division. I don't know if that's coming up. I didn't get the chance to check that out, but I do know that, like you said, I mean, 50. You're talking about 2 points in between them, right? 2,
Right.
3, 6, 2, 4. So I mean, you're talking about points that are very close. Teams that are very close behind. I mean, 10 points makes you go from 5th place to actually 11 points, and it ends up making you from 5th to 1st, right? So anything can happen. That's 5 games,
That division stays close by. Meanwhile, let's switch over to the Eastern North, where the Marlies and the Americans now are having a very tight race. Marlies just holding on to the Eastern North after going 4-4-1 this week, losing to Binghamton, Belleville, and Rochester. They beat the Thunderbirds, Phantoms, and Pens. They went from 8th in the power rankings last week to 23rd this week. Sold to Cole, 3-0, 4 goals, 6 assists, a +4. Williams, also another good week as usual, 4 goals, 4 assists. Deer Hunter, 3 goals, 5 assists. Loop back on defense on the left side, continues to show some offensive prowess while playing good defense, a goal and 4 assists. And on my way out, in the 3 games that I played last week, I went 1-2. Pretty good save percentage, but in the 3 games I played, 55 shots on goal. That's a little over 18 shots per game. And Matty, I think if you do that consistently, if you let up 17, 18, 20 shots on goal per game, you're really decreasing your team's chance of winning games, or at least being in them.
Of course, because how many times are you going to see a shot go end up being a tip in right after a rebound or a greasy goal right in front of the net? You have to limit the team's shots on your goalie. You got to protect your goalie. It's all about protecting your goalie right here and not having as many shots. If there's 17, 18, 20 shots on your goalie, you're looking that something's going to happen at one point or another. That there's going to be a bounce in, there's going to be a little glitch goal that's going to happen, unfortunately. And, that you need to have a good defensive structure not to have as many shots as possible or limitate the shots coming in. And if they keep throwing the kitchen sink, the stove, the oven, the whole kitchen at the goalie, well, at one point or another, unfortunately, it's going to happen. He's going to cave. It is what it is. It's a law of averages and law of number.
Yeah, Fishy Dangles over there is the number 1 goalie, and he's had some games where he's had to make some spectacular saves, and those second chance opportunities are something that I think Toronto needs to work on a little bit. But they're still a very solid team. They've made some more moves, and one of the moves I saw was the trading of I-2797. And I's been around for a while. He's an incredibly solid player. But they traded him off yesterday to Springfield for Jay Fish and Ravens. And again, two good players, incredibly good players coming back for eyes. So, this is one of those opportunities where Fishy had a chance to move a very good player, but get some good quality back in two very good players in this league. And that's a gutsy move. I think a lot of times management folks are trying to find something to dump off on people and get gold back. And I think Fish took a chance and
Yep.
made a good move and got some good quality players back. But of course, he's going to lose a good one in I. But you have to take those chances sometimes.
It's a risk to take. It's definitely a risk to take. Sometimes it's going to happen that way, and you know what? You never know if there's going to be gold in the well, right? But you have to dig for it. You have to try it. I think it's a good move too. I mean, it's going to be something that we're going to get to see during this week. Obviously, in this case, that's what's going to happen right now. On to the next team.
Yeah, let's talk about Rochester. 7-2-1 this week. They're in second place, 2 points back of Toronto. They are fourth in the power rankings this week. They had key wins against the Marlies, Devils, Phantoms, and the Pens. Kachuk at center, going 2-1-1, 5 goals, 5 assists. Touch my duff on the left wing, going 3-0, 4 goals, 5 assists, a +9. And Peepo Patches on right D, 3-0, 4 assists, a +11 for a defenseman
Wow.
this week. And DMAC as well, 3-0. DMAC 7-7-19 on lefty, going 3-0, goal, 3 assists, and a +8. Meanwhile, Westside Hockey still playing incredibly well. Not a surprise. A very solid goaltender. 5-2 week, 80.8 save percentage, and a 2.08 goals against average. And Rochester really has been amping it up in the last few weeks. 6-9 has gotten that team going incredibly well. And I told them personally, you guys and the Marlies are going to have battles back and forth, but I could easily see Rochester slide into first place this week. But this is going to be a big battle between these two teams. I think any future matchups between the Marlies and the Americans are going to be incredibly tough. And behind that, even though Belleville is 11 points back of Rochester, they've been playing pretty well of late. And they're in third place right now, 5-3-1 this past week, 11th in the power rankings. They've won four out of their last 5, beating Springfield, Bridgeport, Rochester, and Toronto. Go Canucks, 3-0, 5 goals, 7 assists. The real demon at the center position, also going 3-0, 6 goals, 6 assists, a +6. Eric Carlson on left D, Mafia Rage on right D, both going 3-0. Carlson with 5 assists, Mafia Rage with 3 assists, and both +5 and +4 respectively for the week. In net, Bullet 3-1, 83.3 save percentage, 1.89 goals against, and Soupy 6-2-2, 2-3, but 84.9 save percentage, 2.8 goals against. He faced 93 shots in those games, 18.6 shots per game. And again, you come away with an under 3 goals against doing that. That is a damn good task and some good goaltending there. Despite the record,
Absolutely.
he definitely showed that he can keep his team in it.
And that's what you need from a goalie, right? You need a goalie that's going to keep you in the game. That maybe at the last few minutes, that you're going to pop a few goals, tie it up, go to OT, and then you need a hero. You know,
Utica, I want to talk about Utica quickly because even though they're not in the top 4, sitting at number 6
they're
at
close.
6th place right now, they went 6-2-1 this past week. They were 11th in the power rankings, tied for 3rd in shot differential with a +30, best in face-off differential with a +51, and Lehigh Valley was 2nd in that category with a +30. So that's how much better Utica did in face-offs this week. They had wins versus the Senators, Devils, and Tigers. Gilles Barin, 2-1 this week, 5 goals, 7 assists. Half Virgin on the left wing, 3-0, 5 goals, 4 assists. And Killer Habs on left D, 2-0-1. He had 4 assists and a +3 this week for Utica. So, again, in 6th place right now, and and but only a point out of that fourth playoff spot. And even though Utica and John Sheldon struggled early on, and people thought this team was going to be crap again, they're right in the thick of the playoff fight once again.
Yep.
And nobody out of it in this Eastern North, by the way, Matty. It's even down to Laval at 41 points. They're only 4 points out of that last playoff spot.
All those teams can make it. They're going to all fight for the third and the fourth position. The first and second is really going to be Toronto Marlies, Rochester Americans. They're going to go up top. And the rest is the battle of the ages for the Belleville Senators, the Syracuse Crunch, Devils, Comets, and Rockets are all going to battle it out. I mean, you're talking about 8 points differential on all those teams right there. So it's going to be a battle. It's definitely going to be a battle. Anybody can make it, and nobody's out of it. It's still it's going to be something. They're going to be moving around up and down everywhere there in the Eastern. That's for sure.
Let's we're going to skip the Western Central and go right to the Western Pacific, because we're going to talk about the Central last, and we're going to key on one team and have an interview a little bit later on. We'll surprise you with that when the time comes. But on the Western Pacific side, Ontario still just blasting away over there. 8-0-1 this week. They stay in first place. Nice lead over San Antonio. But Ontario, second in power rankings, a 7-game win streak, plus 15 goal differential, plus 30 shot differential, plus 26 face-off differential. Time on attack difference over a half an hour worth of time on attack difference. Lowest goals against with 11. They've won 21 of the last 23. Their overtime loss to San Jose this week was the one notable downside, a 1-0 loss in an overtime game. No one who played in Week 5 on this team was a minus at all. So you can look at this entire roster and call out a ton of players for highlighting performances this past week, but let me just key on a couple. Carl Untz, Leet Rixer, Toasty QC, Cold Shot Bubba, all 3-0 this week. Carl Untz with 2 goals, 6 assists, a +5. Rixer 3-4. Toasty 3 goals, 4 assists. Cold Shot on the right D, 2 goals, 3 assists. And Bubba 17 on left D with 3 assists and a +5. Anderson in net, he also known as Dealmaker, 4-1, 93.3 save percentage, .73 goals against, and a shutout. I see before you see the other goaltender went perfect, 4 wins, 83.3 save percentage, 1.61 goals against. And I noticed one other thing, opponents are kept around 11 to 12 shots per game. And again, if you can keep a team down on shots, and that's a pretty good, that's a little bit on the low side on average, and if you can do that every game on average, that's going to get you a lot of wins. And Bubba 17, who if he can keep his head on straight and and not find a reason to find himself on the outside of this league, to have somebody like that on this team now, tremendous defensive player, great shot from the point, great timing. And could be a big help for Ontario. This team just looks stacked at this point, Matty.
Oh, they're reigning, right? Ontario Reign is raining on everyone. I mean, they're tied in terms of points. If you're looking at it, they're tied up with Manitoba Moose with 71. I mean, they've locked in their position in the playoffs. That's 100%. They're going all the way. I mean, with 45 games, they're at 71. Closest team is 59 with a rampage, right? So they're going reigning on the league right now, just like the Moose, right? And it's a beautiful thing to see, man. When you see a team that's clicking all cylinders and running for it, good thing to see.
San Antonio. I was just gonna say San Antonio. The funny thing is, we talk all this about Ontario. San Antonio went 7-1-1, first in the power rankings, up from 5th, and still they haven't made up enough ground yet. 13-4 the last 2 weeks. They're first in goal differential at +23, second in shot diff at 50, and first in time on attack with 38, a little over 38 minutes on the plus side time on attack. Second lowest goals against with 16 this past week. So good team effort all around. Perfect skills, QC. Went 3-0, 7 goals, 6 assists, a +9. KO's 9. Two and 1, 2 goals, 9 assists, +5. I'm a do a 3, 2-0-1, 6-5. Throw punch on left D. Also went undefeated with Fruiter. And these guys both at a +10 this week on defense. Goaltenders facing less than 12 shots per game on average. So while this team did well offensively and definitely got a lot more shots on net, you got to look at guys like Throw Punch and Fruiter who made a big difference this week defensively. And this team is also a pretty well-rounded one and might be the best capable of beating Ontario in this division.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, they're definitely a team to look forward to. They're gonna lock it into at 59 points. They're looking good out there. The Rampage are rampaging through, man.
We'll just quickly talk about San Jose, who's in fourth. They went 6-3 this week, eighth in the power rankings, 4-game winning streak. Again, good numbers on shot differential at 23. They're amazingly a minus 14.5 minutes on time on attack difference. They're the only top 10 team in the power rankings with a minus time on attack differential, and yet they're still in the top 10. Somehow, by having that much of a disparity on time on attack, they're still able to win games. They're 3-1 versus the Western Central this week, including wins against Milwaukee and Manitoba. Tickle My Sakic, 6 goals, 8 assists, +6. Marauding Moose, 5 goals, 8 assists. They both went 3-0. Also at 3-0 this week, Rollerback Woods, 3 goals, 7 assists. My old buddy Berger, Philly's old D partner, on right D in San Jose, 2-1, 2 goals and assists, a +3. And Ether, another guy that I've known for a long time in this game, 3-0 this week, had 1 assist back on left D, but a +5. And again, this is another team who have found some good defensemen who are playing at the top of their game right now and are keeping San Jose in this. Meanwhile, Bakersfield holds on to third place. They dropped down to 19th in the power rankings. Well, actually, I think they were around that point last week. They only beat San Diego from their division this week. They lost 4 other games within division. Jared Rocks at 4 goals and 6 assists. He went 2-0-1. LG McDonald, first time we mentioned him on the show. He went 2-1, 6 goals, 4 assists, a +3. Mecca also 2-1 this week with 8 assists. And Happy Gilmore on the left D with 6 assists and a +4. This Bakersfield team has, in my mind, 2 of the best goaltenders that I've seen play this game in Skyhawk and Rick Stoneman, but their numbers not really good this week. Skyhawk 3-2, 75 save percentage, 2.5 goals against, not bad. Rick Stoneman 1-3 this week, 73.4 save percentage, 3.8 goals against. He was averaging 16 shots per game, and again might be a little bit on the high side of average, but it seems like maybe a lot of teams are getting opportunities against them, and they're just not getting it done defensively, perhaps, and not getting the wins against the teams in their division. That can help as well. So Bakersfield holds on to third place, but they're only 4 points ahead of San Jose, as you see on the standings. And Matty, it still looks like a 4-race team, but Ontario's pulling away, and now it's just about San Antonio and Bakersfield and San Jose holding on. Texas still only 5 points out of that last playoff spot, and Tucson 8 points back. So those teams still have a chance.
Yeah, no, definitely. With the number of games still left in the season, those teams can definitely pull off and come back and get themselves on the playoff spot. And once the playoff starts, anything can happen, right? Any bump is gonna happen your way, and chemistry and can kick in, and boom, you just got a group of guys that start winning. And winning streaks happen all the time. It's not because one team is on a winning streak that they can't get cold. It's the type of league that sometimes the puck is just going to bounce your way. It's going to happen, and it's going to clip, and it's going to go back at the net.
Let's start talking about the Western Central and begin with the standings here, as you see, Manitoba still on top with 71 points. Iowa, Chicago right behind them, 3 points separating those three teams. And then Milwaukee, who have been playing better, you see they've won 3 in a row. They're at 60 points. And then you've got Rockford, Colorado, and Grand Rapids not too far behind. Grand Rapids and Colorado have a lot of ground to make up to make that 4th playoff spot. And Cleveland still struggling this week. 15-game losing streak. We forgot to mention Providence had a 22-game losing streak, I believe, and then finally broke it this week. But Cleveland looking to maybe top that if they don't get some wins this week. Manitoba 6-2-1, 10th in the power rankings. They've won 11 of the last 14. They played the Western Pacific, lost to Ontario and San Jose, also losing to Milwaukee this week. Team stats for Week 5, not overly impressive if you look at the general stats, but from player numbers, you can kind of see that the defense and the goaltending probably made a difference here. Chief Trout on right D, 2-0-1, goal, 2 assists, and a +8. JML on left D, 3-0 this week, a goal, assist, but a +10 on defense. Dr. Nasty, 4-2. In net, 85.6 goals. Save percentage, 1.89 goals against over 16 shots per game. He was seeing Churchy, the other net minder, went 2-1. He was seeing over 17 shots per game. His goals against at 3 this week. Save percentage, 82.7. Meanwhile, Snowy, 6 goals, 5 assists. Lobo Dangles, 2 goals, 9 assists this week with their offense. So a team that went 6-2-1. Didn't get a ton of offense, a ton of scoring, but wound up getting good defense. And you know what? Enough to get them at 6-2-1 and keep them in first place in the Western Central. But Iowa right behind them, unfortunately not having a great week at 4-3-2. Went from undefeated in Week 4 to this effort in Week 5. So playing some tougher teams, obviously losing to Chicago and Manitoba this week. Tommy 6926 going 1-2, 4 goals, 5 assists, and a +5 on the plus-minus. Crazy Man Gaming, who was just traded, 3 goals, 5 assists, a +5 on right wing. Mastatic 3-0, 5 assists, and a +9 on left defense. And Leafs 1791 in net, went 2-2, but he was playing there at a 86.5 save percentage, 2.40 goals against, 74 shots against him in 4 games. That adds up to 18.5 shots per game. And again, keeping your goals against under 3, and at this point, 2.4. Damn good effort by Leafy this week in net. That is a lot to be facing. And Leafs having a good week in net for Iowa. And we'll just round out, before we talk about the 4th team, we'll wind up with Milwaukee, who went 6-3. They are in 4th place. Plus 12 goal differential, shot differential, 23 face-off differential. All the team numbers looking up for Milwaukee. Only 4 of the 22 who played this week had a minus in a plus-minus. And it was Kyle with a 3-0 record, 6 goals, 5 assists. Dabs will do at 2-1, 4 goals, 7 assists. And Choking Hazard went 3-0 on left D with a 4-assist effort this week and a +8. Chula 19 in goal, 5-1, 2.93 goals against. He had a shutout and played fairly well in net for them this week. And all those teams in that division, certainly in the top 4, but the team we're going to focus on a little bit tonight is the Chicago Wolves and what they were able to do this week. Chicago going 7-2. They are in 3rd place, and they are 9th in the power rankings, up from 18th last week. And they are 3rd in time and attack difference, just over 18 minutes on the plus side. It is a team with the 4th lowest goals against this week at 18. 7 straight wins that were sandwiched by losses at the start and the end of Week 5. Datsuki and Deke, 3-0, 4 goals, 8 assists this week. Gumba, who also went 3-0, 5 goals, 4 assists, a +8. Glex on left D, also 3 wins this week, 2 assists and a +8. And Gaming Rendo also a 3-win effort with a +7 this week. In net, Jason 1755 went 5-1, 83.3 save percentage, 2.25 goals against, and a shutout. And Vatten Rules with a 2-1 effort, 89.7 goal save percentage, 1.35 goals against. And joining us now from Chicago, from the Chicago Wolves, is Mr. Don, who joins us on the show. And Don, thanks for joining us today. You guys have been playing well for several weeks in a row, and Philly's MVP was bitching at me for not talking about you guys enough. But again, you've got some great leadership over there, and you and Philly certainly provide a good veteran presence. But what else has been the key to the success of the Chicago Wolves this season?
Well, I mean, we had a lot of chemistry between our lines. Gumba's line, they all play together over on Xbox. Me and Jonesy and Meaty Slender Dick there. We've been playing together for a while too.
Right.
Everyone knows Philly's been with me since I've hopped over on PlayStation, of course. And throughout the whole lineup, we just got a lot of chemistry between the guys. We all like playing with each other and everything. We got two really good goalies
Right.
on very good contracts. So it always helps when you get two guys back there that can stop the puck.
And your defense, we mentioned Glex and Gaming Rendo. These guys having a good week, but and Philly, of course, didn't put up big numbers. But there's a guy who's a presence on the ice, back on defense, and that kind of defensive, structure that you guys have. While you've got two very good goaltenders, that's got to give them a lot of confidence to know they've got that kind of defense in front of them.
Absolutely. And our top two D pairs have been fantastic so far. Our third pair's been pretty good too. But I mean, throughout the whole lineup, especially our top two forward lines, our top two groups of 5 guys, really, we all play very defensive. And even that third line, they play, quote unquote third line, but the other line, as
Right.
we call them, they play pretty defensive too. They know what they're doing. They've all played in this league before. They've got some good experience and stuff. So we help the goalies out. We, obviously one of the best recipes of success is not giving up a lot of breakaways. We try to do that a lot. We play some pretty good team defense.
Again, you've played in this league quite a lot, and you have a lot of experience with how things go in the season and the ups and downs. You can look incredibly good 1 second, and then a week or two later you're struggling. What's going to be the key for Chicago to stay on top and to continue to be competitive week after week? Is there anything else you guys need to do before the trade deadline next week, or do you think now it's just about getting the guys together and gaining chemistry?
Yeah, it's mostly just about gaining a little more chemistry. Obviously, if there's something out there that me or Gumba can do or Dats can do to help improve the team, we'll look into it, of course. But I mean, if we go into the playoffs with this group of guys we got, I'm really confident in that. Obviously, we're gonna have a hell of a time playing, one of Iowa or Manitoba, trying to get out of our division, or possibly both at some point. So that should be interesting. That's some heavyweight matchups going on there. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, we just got to not take some teams lightly. I mean, obviously, going into this week, we were scoring quite a bit of goals, and this week our goal production maybe dropped down a bit, playing some weaker teams. Maybe we just kind of took them a little lighter, thought we were going to roll over them. So
Right.
maybe that'll be a little bit of a learning experience for the boys there.
And you guys really haven't been overly active in trading the last couple of weeks, have you?
No, not really. I mean, we're all a close group of guys. I mean, like I had said before, Gumba and Dats, they have all their friends from their Xbox team, and I got most of my guys that I've been playing with for a while. And even the other line that we got there, I know most of those guys. Those guys have been on my teams or on Gumba and Dats's teams before. So I mean, there's not a lot of movement that really needs to happen with us.
Who are you mostly concerned? I mean, you've got you got several teams you have to worry about, but is there anybody that really stands out that looks like they're all locked and loaded for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Manitoba. You look at them; they've been around forever. They're always been giving us a hard time. We've had some great battles with them over the last few years because even back to the days when we were in Toronto and they were on Syracuse. We had some battles back then. We had that big 7-game playoff series that they ended up beating us in, and last season we had a lot of good battles during the regular season. I mean, even Iowa, a lot of those guys, you hadn't heard most of their names coming up. They're, establishing themselves in this league, especially Tommy and Beast and those guys. Matt the Cool Cat's been around forever. That guy used to play over on Xbox a long time back, and he's really good player, really good player. And, I mean, those guys really up and coming. And then you look at Iowa and Net, and you look at Jones. He's one of the better goalies in the game overall. He's on my Xbox team in Vancouver, and he's one of the best goalies I've seen play. He's outstanding. He can carry a team on his own. So that's going to be a little tough to overcome, but we'll see. See what happens.
You guys are definitely in a good spot right now. That's 100%. With 68 points, you guys are definitely in a good spot to make a run for the first place in the Western Central. That's for sure.
Yeah, it helped a little bit. Iowa kind of, maybe had a little bit of an off week for them, especially up to their standards, the way they've been playing all the season so far. And, the boys came out in Chicago this week. They had a pretty good week. Lost to, maybe not the best teams, so we took them a little lightly. We could have possibly went 9-0, but, 7-2, nothing to be worried about.
And
it's definitely a great record for the week.
Yeah,
absolutely.
As I mentioned, you guys haven't made many moves. What's your take on the amount of movement that goes on, especially with some teams who are doing well, who wind up still moving a half a dozen players a week? How do you feel about that? Do you have any comments as far as what that does to chemistry or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, every manager has their own style. So I mean, some guys like to, they build a team and they get it going, and they like to stick with what they got. Other people like to, they really like the idea of trading and being in control of their team and other stuff. But I mean, as long as you make trades that benefit you, whether it's for, maybe you have a good team, but your availability isn't very good, so you're having a hard time getting all your lines together. Especially, like, say you got two really good lines you want to put together, and you got another line that, could play together. They're not too bad, but some of those guys' availabilities don't match up, and so you got to mix the lines. So you got to make those trades.
Right.
Obviously you would like to get a better player back, but obviously, one of the biggest things, you can never underestimate a guy that has, 7, 8, 9, and 9 availability. Always extremely valuable to any team.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of those trades you see, it's probably, maybe some people are upsetting other people in the locker room, something like that in the team chat,
right.
Or maybe it's availability issues and stuff like that.
Finally, your own play this year, 13-1 in 14 games you played. You've 46 points, 21 goals, 25 assists, a plus 36. I would assume you're happy with your play at this point.
Yeah, you could say that. I'm having a fun time this season, so it's always good to play with people play with people and play with people you like playing with. Especially if they know what they're doing on the sticks, like Phillies and Samurai and Meaty Slender Dick. They all know what they're doing, so it helps. It definitely helps.
Well, that's. Thanks for joining us tonight, Don. I appreciate it. Don's going to stick around, I believe, and we're going to keep on talking if you got time.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yep, absolutely.
He's going to stick around.
We obviously went through every team and all the divisions, and again, trade deadline is next Sunday at 5 p.m. So that's the start of Week 7. That's always the rule in this, that the trade deadline happens on the Sunday of Week 7 start. So we've seen a bunch of moves made, but we got more coming, I'm sure, and We're going to be on the air next week at 4 p.m. Eastern time to do the show, and then also carry us into the trade deadline and start to talk about some of the trades that went on. And so tune in for that. That's always fun. We have a blast bringing those trades over and breaking them to you as they come in. So tune in next week and let's take a listen to that. The final bit I want to talk about today, and the last topic of discussion, will be the poll that I placed earlier this week on the LG website, and that was about whether or not players should be allowed to play in the season they were banned, where they're able to buy out a ban and then come right back that same season, or should they have to wait till next season. And that poll closed about an hour ago here on the LG site. It was up for about a week, and the results are in, and as you see, 116 votes say that players should not be able to play again until the next season, even with a ban buyout, and 24 votes saying they should be able to play again in the current season if they buy out the ban. So 82, almost 83% to 17% difference there. And again, you're talking about 140 votes there. There are certainly several hundred more in this league alone in the AHL, but that's a sort of respectable amount. Maybe I'm never sure what the total count is in this league, but it's a respectable number. And I just want to I put this out there because of the issue that was going on with Datsuk with the Wild getting called up about a month ago. Gets called up to Minnesota. 2 weeks later, demands a trade. He is traded to Montreal. He decides that's not what he wants. He quits, buys back in, gets put back on the TC of the NHL team, which is Iowa, and then gets called right back up again. Now, part of the speculation was, well, maybe he wanted to be back on Iowa. I understand that he's got a bunch of friends on that team and wanted to play there. He winds up getting called back up again. So we'll see how this all works out and why, maybe somebody talked him out of it and said, look, just go play up there. And if they don't make the playoffs, we'll have you come back down and play for us in the AHL. I'm speculating here. I don't know what the purpose of all that was, but it's just the idea of a guy quitting and being able to buy out and come right back because he doesn't like his situation. Even when he requested a trade, he didn't like the trade that was made and decides to quit. And my own feelings on this are, you quit on your team for that season. To me, that's an incredibly bad error in judgment. You should be sitting out that season, and if you're going to buy out a ban, it's for next season. And there are many reasons why I feel that way, but I wanted to get Don's take on this. And again, as someone who's been around in this league for a while, has experienced everything else that all of us have experienced who are veterans of this league. What's your take on this? And do you see any reason why you might want to let a player buy back in for the same season?
Yeah, so my take on that is, you quit, you should be done for the season. You buy it out, you shouldn't be able to come back that season because it's given more power to the players. They already have a trade request if they take a 2-season deal. But if they don't want to play, they quit, then you got to sit out the rest of the season. That's how it should be. So as a manager, I've never had to experience that, but I know a lot of managers around the league have, and it can be pretty frustrating. You get someone who's got an ego. They think they don't want to play for your team because they think your team's not very good, or they just don't like you, or
right.
Someone that's on the team. You sign up and you take that risk. That's what you do by going into bidding. You can't dictate where you go. Unless you have that one trade request, you can try to get off that one team. But if you get traded to another team that maybe you don't like, too bad. By going at it and saying, hey, you suck, get me off this team, probably not your best idea. If you're friendly with the guy, you stick out, you'd say, hey, I'm going to show up for my 3 games. I'm going to give you, I'm going to play my games. I'm going to play my hardest, see what we got. And if by the trade deadline, you get a deal for me, maybe think about it. Don't go in there and just say, hey, get me off this team or I'm quitting. And then, once you do, you buy it back, and then you get back on the team somehow. Just because, you get, and then by the time when you buy it back, that GM is going to do one of two things. They're going to let you rot on the TC and just say you're going to sit there, or they're going to be like, I'm fed up with your crap and I'm going to trade you anyways. Just get them out of me. I'm not dealing with a headache. I don't get paid for this stuff, and all that stuff.
Right.
So I mean, if you get, you quit, you buy out your ban, you should be able to come back the season after, not that season. That's what I feel.
Maddie, what's your take on it?
I 100% agree as well, man. You take a ban, you sit it out. That's it. Watch it from the sidelines. That's it. Take it next year and play it next season, see how it goes, and that's it. That's all. I don't believe that it should be an opportunity that you could buy out your ban right there and then and come back in the league and then try to work your way and weasel and snake your way through to get where you want to go. You already have an opportunity, like Don said, that you can ask for a trade, right? Mm-hmm. You have that opportunity. Take it, be respectable about it, and that's it. And you'll get to have another opportunity. And if it doesn't work out and you're tired of the situation, you take the ban. Well, that's it. It's one season, not a big deal. And then you play next season. That's it. You adapt to it at that point in time. It is what it is in that sense. You have to be in that type of situation to be like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna sit it out. I'll have next season go run it for next season. I mean, that's how I see it. I think everybody, the poll went for it. Everybody went for it. It is what it is. It's not something that should be a possibility for sure.
Yeah, LG McDonald had mentioned on the thread that I posted, and I thank Brody for chiming in on it, because I think it's important that people know that the league does look at this stuff, and they do want people's opinions and thoughts and ideas. He asked, why does the community want people to be able to doesn't want the community I'm sorry, why doesn't the community want people to buy out the ban for nearly the price of the game, only to return to their same team's TC? Well, I think one of the things is there are guys who can throw $50 down without a problem, and for whatever reason are incredibly focused on wanting to play in this game how they want to play in it. So yeah, it'll be no problem for them to plunk down the 50 and do that. And I know part of the reason that I think Brody had mentioned this is because, he also wanted the team who lost out. In this case, you would say, okay, Iowa or Minnesota, the team who loses out, to maybe at least still have some value with this player to be able to maybe trade him if they can. And certainly Marks51 said it. I think it's the last posting in this one. Yeah, okay. Maybe they can trade him, but they're going to get half the price that they would have gotten for this player before, or even less, because everyone knows this guy quit and came back on the roster.
It's a bad image.
Yeah, it is. But the bigger question is, why are we valuing one player on a team, and whether or not whether or not the GM can sell this player for pennies on the dollar, as opposed to worrying about what the bigger issue is, which is these guys just quitting and trying to game the system. We have a lot of this happening. The IP thing is, and multiple accounts is one major issue that the league deals with, and that's great. But the character of the league and the character of the players in the league should be damn just as important as that, because when they are able to game the system and do it successfully and get themselves back in for a price of a few bucks, that's part of the integrity of the league that's getting affected. And, I took a count on the CHL-TC roster, guys. There's well over 1,400 players on the TC of the CHL alone. We could clear-cut 100 of these idiots in our league, and it won't affect anything, because we have these guys rotting on CHL TCs, getting dumped by their teams because they're inactive, because they have nothing to go to. but we want to keep these idiots who want to game the system, and that's the part of it I do not understand. And maybe that's because I'm old and I don't have as much patience with this kind of attitude. But Don, that's kind of how I see it. It's just that we're placating these guys who want to quit, and we're giving them opportunities to get back in some way, and maybe by the roll of the dice, they get back somewhere that they want to be. Why are we doing that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, there's certain situations. Obviously, something happens where in life situations where you can't make games, and maybe you can't get to your phone and tell people you're away. You get those 3 strikes and you get banned. You come back and you appeal it.
Yeah.
There's something like that. So obviously, something like that, sure, you should be allowed to come back, especially if it's appealed and they say, they understand the situation and everything, because stuff happens. But if you're just out there just kind of being a dick and you go out there and just quit on your team just because you don't like who's on your team, you should sit out that season. Because especially, like you said, if they do come back, they do, he has the reputation now, he quits. Some people might not want him just because of that, because they're afraid he's going to quit. Mm-hmm. Or they know he doesn't want to play on your team, so they're going to try to just rip you off and give you, a couple TCs that maybe don't even matter, no value at all, just to try to get them off your hands, just to get rid of the headache and whatnot like that. So, it gives, maybe a little more power to the players, which, already they have quite a bit, which they have quite a bit, and the manager should have a little more power on how they build their team and who they can get.
There's also obviously within that thread and comments I saw in the shout box, and there is this this idea and thought that I don't agree with, which is, well, the league just wants to make their money, and I know LG McDonald's had to say, look, just so you know, none of this is going in my pocket, and there's there are costs to a league. This putting up a site like this isn't free to Tris and Brody and everybody else who puts in work in this. There's the work that the Boggs put in, that McDonald puts in, that Tris puts in. They're not getting paid by a company to do this. This is all done on their own dime. They're paying by putting their time into it. And for most of us, if you want to, if you don't cause any issues, and you could play this league completely free, no questions asked. So it is a free league, and it can be, but it still costs money to do things. And if people break the rules, they should have to pay for it. But I disagree with the idea, Maddie, that this is just another way for the league to make money. They didn't do that. They didn't do this for that reason to begin with, and to say that $40-$50 here and there from a few guys is going to really line their pockets to the point where it's worth them compromising the integrity of the league just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, there's a lot of people that they invest money in it. I mean, at the end of the day, they're doing this for the pure joy of it. And sure, if it ends up, being something that ends up being huge, which is already huge as we speak, but if it ends up being bigger in the game, great. But right now, it's all time and effort, sweat and tears going into, and what's necessary for the league for everybody to. But if somebody's not happy, takes a ban, and yeah, you have to pay for it. Sorry, it's not like as if it's they're making millions off bans and stuff like that. They're gonna get a little chunk, and what are they gonna do? They're gonna reinvest it right back in making the websites, and I don't even know how much it must cost to just find out the IP address and stuff like that. If you want to, all that stuff they have to do that on the back end. It's extra work. It's extra, finance programs that they have to learn, adapt, and apply, right?
Right.
It's not fun and games, but you know what? It is fun and games. It is games, but it's not fun and games in a sense, right? So it's all what it is right now. It's all about having, something going out with the league that we community happen. It's all about for enjoying the game, like we all like playing drop-ins, but drop-ins is not the same level that we're playing in the league, LG. What you're going with LG is you're going to be playing competitively. People that play with each other, have structure with each other, take it serious by having fun as well at the same time.
Right. Well, it's an interesting question, and while it would have been nice to have a couple more 100 people respond to it, it just didn't work out that way. And but still 140 people, which is pretty good for one of these polls that we run on here. And we had that many say, hey, you know what? That many folks say I'm interested in putting an idea out there, and again, 113 saying no buybacks. we're done with these kinds of players, and 24 saying to allow them back in. There are special circumstances, but I think that's on a case by case basis that the league will weed through, and that's I think they do a pretty good job of that. So. I just wish they would think more about these situations where someone quits and not letting them back in when they're clearly looking to just try and find a better situation. But
it is by case, obviously. Like you said, if there's a ban, somebody takes a ban because there was a medical condition or something of that nature. Those situations happen. Unfortunate. Right. Does it suck that they will have to pay a ban to get in? Well, those are the policies. So it'll be having to be adapted.
Right.
I will say, like, if you work with the Bugs, if you leave, if you quit the season for something personal or something to do with medical situation, something like that, if you appeal it when you come back, obviously this is usually you sit out that season because of your real life situation, anyways. And you come back the next season, you appeal it, and you talk to them. They usually, they're pretty lenient with that. They don't, they usually won't make you buy that out. They'll grant you the appeal, and they'll make it be like you just missed that season, and you can come back. You don't really have to pay anything. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. I think I had a situation like that a few seasons ago where a kid on my team had some real life situations pop up. Obviously that stuff like that happens, that takes priority over video games and such. And so, you just work with that, and the Bogs do that too. The Bogs are, contrary to popular belief, the Bogs aren't out to get you guys. They're usually here to work with you. Sometimes do they come in the chat box and chirp you? Sure. You're welcome to chirp them back. But most of the time they're pretty good guys, and they'll help you out.
Yeah, they're there for the league to be for assistance, right? So, just come up with a case. If there's a situation and there's a case and such things like that, talk about it. Yeah. We're there to help you guys out. The Bogs are there to help everyone in certain situations. There's case by case that'll happen, but in the end of the day, it was a cool poll, and I liked it. I thought it was a great idea, Sibs.
Hey, Maddie.
Put that out.
Maddie, this just in. You were traded.
It's official.
It's official.
I'm grabbing my backpack. I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Where am I going? Am I really going to Texas? I'm joining you, Sims?
Yeah, you're joining me and DeGraves in Texas now.
I'm back. DeGraves decided it's okay. Maybe I'm going to stay for more than 24 hours now. It sucks he's not on the show. I can't get to talk to him right now. But so for him to welcome me back in the team and then kick me right back out.
Well, I'm playing tonight. I'm playing tonight, ready. So if you're there, you'll be playing with me.
Yeah, he sent me a message before saying that I'm probably going to play tonight. So
all part of the game.
Be at it. It's all part of the game. And it's like I said, I don't take it butthurt. I'm still cool with all the GMs and stuff like that. I know it's an adaptive thing, right? You have to be mature about this. Sometimes the teams will need a defenseman, and the other team is looking for a forward. Well, you know what? You take the hit and you go, and you just adapt with it. You roll with the punches. It's all about rolling with the punches.
Oh yeah.
You take a few, and you just make sure you're gonna knock them out in the third round, and that's it. Flat out on the floor.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we're gonna wrap it up here. Just want to remind everybody that next week, a special start time, 4 p.m. Eastern. It'll be our regular show, but we will also be talking about the trade deadline, which will happen at 5 p.m. So we're gonna go from 4 till 5:30, 6 maybe, talking about the week and talking about trades. So tune in next week, 4 p.m. start time for the show next week, Eastern time, right here on LeagueGaming.com and the YouTube channel. Again, Don, thanks for your time. I appreciate it, my friend, and good luck the rest of the season.
Yeah, anytime. You too. Good luck.
And
Thanks a lot.
Maddie, take it easy, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
We're going to be playing tonight.
We think.
Let's go get them.
Folks, you've been
All
watching AHLPSN this week and PSN Hockey on LeagueGaming.com. I'm T. Sibbs for Matty Lucci and Mr. Don saying so long, and we will talk to you again next week, 4 p.m. Eastern for the start of the show.